You got to go on mute.
We're live.
Awesome.
Hello, everyone. Hello there. Welcome to Pebble, a startup podcast, which is specially built around startups in deep tech and entrepreneurs who are making the news. I'm your host and founder, Vishal Krishna. My guest today is Kausambi Manjita. She is the founder of Mason, and she's going to tell us about Mason a bit. Let me talk about the subject in hand today, okay? Today, we're going to talk about the no-code revolution in India and why brands can pick it up and use tools to build their applications without any knowledge of software. No-code is a series of tools and platforms, technologies that allow you to build applications. Let me talk about Mason now, okay? In their website, they say they're an indie, design-loving, futuristic team of makers working out of Bengaluru, Toronto, and San Francisco, pardon me. They're relentlessly focused on pushing the boundaries. They say they're a team of designers using technology to remove the barriers that hold back individuals and teams across the world. That's so true. How are you, Kaus?
Right, I was on mute. Sorry for a second. I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me on, Pebble, and really excited to finally get to meet you.
You know, I've been studying this no-code thing for 3-4 years now, and I feel happy as a creator that I can now build websites and applications on my own. But the story itself is larger. From the creator economy, it can also go to the brands, and from there on to the large corporate, right?
Yeah.
I quickly want you to tell us about what is a creator economy when it comes to the no-code movement, and what is no-code by itself?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's a very common question that a bunch of us have in our minds today, right? And different people are defining creator economy in different ways. I really like this definition of creator economy being a passion economy, when you don't have to be, bogged down or bound by the constructs of having to do a job to make a living, but you can follow your passion and make a living, right? So that's, in a broad way, I love that definition of creator economy, that it is all about your passion and whether you can follow your passion and make a living out of it. Like, so from a philosophical perspective, that's the creator economy. From in terms of numbers, what I hear, the last that I heard is there are about 50 million people worldwide who consider themselves to be creators, right? And a large part of them, honestly speaking, consider themselves to be amateurs, right? They're probably about the top 2 million is where the big bucks are, the breakouts are. And these are folks who are not just creating enough, but are earning so much more. They're literally brands, individuals who are brands themselves now. But yeah, roughly about 50 odd million folks in the world. And that's a very large number and growing every year.
It's going to grow. It's going to grow larger simply because I hear everybody now can go build applications, right? And I think when did this journey begin for you? What, it was 2-3 years ago? You had another startup before that. You were in Myntra. You were in IBM early on in your career. How did this low code movement come about? Did you realize that this is the subject that you want to go after? How did it all begin for you?
Yeah, it's recently I was speaking to actually the product-led growth team and the product-led team rather. And one interesting question that, as we were talking about no code and how I chanced upon it rather, when you step back and you start realizing that I've always been passionate about how do I make technology more accessible. I don't code myself. I've been in the tech space. Ever since I was a little child, I used to only read science fiction. Asimov back in 11th, 12th, I think by 12th I had finished off, eaten off all of Isaac Asimov's books, right?
Foundation included.
Included, right? And I was so sad that, oh man, there's nothing left for me to read from Asimov anymore. And then moved on to Frank Herbert and so on, right? And so always been a huge technology enthusiast, love technology, love the vision that tech has of powering us across galaxies. And not just today, right? And that was very exciting for me. So in some way or the other, I've always worked in tech, but I can't code. I'm a creative person, actually, and I'm a people person, more importantly, and I don't enjoy coding. I've tried that. It's just like not my jam, right? And so everything that I have built in, whether when I was at IBM Commerce or, I came back to India and I worked at Paytm and then at Myntra, I realized that, and I was in ISB for a year, and, we were doing this little projects, simple project on how to collect testimonials without people having to actually log in anywhere. So it was like a one-click testimonial collector or something of that sort. So when I stepped back and I started looking, I realized that in some way, the passion has always been, how do I bring technology to everybody? Right. And just that recently I realized it's termed as a no-code evangelist. And so I realized that, well, that defines me the best, right? But the passion has always been there. I've always been excited about being the person who works and lives and, breathes and eats technology with technologists. My best friends, everybody are all technologists. But how do I bring all of that to everybody?
The interesting part is you're being very modest there because you've got more than 10,000 teams that I think use Mason, right? It's interesting. I mean, how do you get to that level itself? Getting 100 customers itself can be a problem for many of us startups, right? It's testimony to the fact that many of these retailers, like some of them like Skechers, right? You have Zombie Woodworks. Some of these examples are your clients.
Yeah.
They have gone ahead with this no-code revolution. And you said that it is also specifically catered to these brands to use these tools. How do they work? How does a typical engagement work? Say if I'm a first-time D2C founder and there's a D2C revolution happening in India, Avendus Capital predicts that there will be 6,000 brands by 2024, generating $100 billion worth of business. That's amazing, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm sure it's only going to increase. So how does a typical engagement begin for a young brand founder? Do they contact Mason and they start building it by themselves? Is it a do-it-yourself kit kind of a thing? How does it work?
Yeah. Just to understand where Mason fits in, I'll step back a little bit and kind of give a very quick, insight into the e-commerce stack itself. And, so it starts with it all starts with, I need to come online and I need to set up shop online, right? And what does it really mean? It means my product information, my catalog, my pricing, my inventory. So there are all these I would say retail constructs that have to be there. You need management systems for all of that. Early back on when I was working in IBM Commerce, I was actually building these enterprise stacks for pricing, for order management, for, transport management, all of that, right? And I was in the teams that actually built a bunch of those technologies. So in the early days of e-commerce, it was all about enterprise and how do big enterprises really set up these whole e-commerce stack, right? What Shopify or closer to home, a Dukan, or a Bikai, what they are doing is they're making this coming online super easy. So you don't need to know that you need an order management system. You don't have to be aware about it at all. All you need is you need a Shopify. You know that Shopify helps you set up an online store. So you come, very simple way, maybe working with a couple of developers, you can actually set up your shop online, right? So what that encapsulates is all of these complex, retail constructs of pricing, order, inventory, all of that, right? Once that is done, the second step is actually my storefront. So very equal to the offline world. You have, for example, where you store your products and what is the price of the product, all of that. Then you need a shop. So online world, it's your storefront, and that you need like something called a store builder. So you have your e-commerce platform that helped you with everything backend. Then you have a store builder to help you with the framework of your store. Like I need a home page, I need a banner on top, I need like widgets and collections, I need a list page, I need product details page, I need checkout. So all of these like different parts of your store itself, your storefront, right? So you need a store builder, and the store builder helps you. There are many great no-code store builders today. In fact, recently I was seeing, I don't remember the name, unfortunately, but this cool little plugin on Notion to actually convert whatever you do on Notion into like a checkout page, right? So there's like that sort of, no-code solutions are out there today for store builder. Now, once these two are done, you are online, right? You have an online store. But what happens is that as you start seeing traction online, your problem shifts from, as I said, how do I go online? That's all. But how do I grow online? So every day you have to do a ton of things. You have to launch your products. You have to create sales, weekend sales, your event-based sales, your festival sales, etc. You need to create product bundles. You need to ensure that the right information. For example, if Vishal is buying some product, then you want to also convey that to other customers that 20 people have bought this T-shirt, right? Or that this is a bestseller. So there are a lot of these day-to-day activities that you need to do on your storefront, right? Which is actually data from your backend repackaged into communication and pushed to your storefront, right? So that part is all manual today. It's doesn't have one stack, like how we all know Shopify helps you set up, or Shogun helps you create a storefront. There's nothing in the middle that helps you run these two stacks together, right?
Brilliant. So all content, all types of content can come into this.
All types of e-commerce content, all types of e-commerce communication, which are the interesting thing about e-commerce communication is not just, something as simple as a product listing. It's not just a picture of a product. A product listing is actually your pricing, your inventory, how many items are there, what sizes, right? What are the ingredients of that material. So there's all these data that is tied around just the product pictures, right?
That's interesting. So the entire product listing can be running on some sort of an AI kind of thing, right? It's once I integrate all this, all I have to do is design how the workflow is. Rest of it, the APIs take over, the code takes over and does it for me.
Brilliant, right? That's pretty much what it is. So I'll take a very simple example.
Please.
The very simple example being that, when I have a bunch of inventory, but as, Vishal and Kos go and shop, my inventory runs low. Right. And so when my inventory runs low, when my products are from 10, they become 5, then I want to convey to my customer, the next customer who comes in, hey, only last 5 left. Right? Because you want to convey the most transparent information back. And when, the last 5 people have bought it, you want to call it out as out of stock. And when you buy more products and buy more inventory rather and stock it back, you want to call it out as, hey, back in stock. And you probably want an SMS or an emailer also to go out and say that, hey, this is the product that you were engaging with, it's back in stock. So it sounds like, these are like no-brainers, right? I definitely need to make sure that happens, but there is so much of manual, not just about manual, but also so many different, apps and solutions I have to use, like jump across fragmented systems today and people to really make that happen. And even a small team, like a $2 million GMV team, who's growing quite a bit and now want to really break out, they would end up hiring like 3-4 interns whose job is literally go watch that data, another intern now package.
So they don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, so that they don't have to worry about that anymore, because what we provide are no-code playbooks. So this entire flow is like your product lifecycle playbook, and you can turn that on, and you can plug that into your Shopify store, for example, and then this entire products go low in stock, they go back in stock, all the call outs are automatically updated.
Kaus, this is interesting. So most of the brands I meet have Insta store. Right, they record all their data on Google Sheets, right, and obviously they built their front end on Shopify or e-commerce kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
So you integrate all that, including many others. It can be data management, right? You can also integrate for ads. You'll make sure everything has a dashboard and it's managed for you. It's almost like you have the marketing, sales, promotion person sitting with you, but in this case, it's some sort of an assistant, an AI-based assistant of sorts. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think AI is like it's like one of the ways we're implementing, but the core here is that now you have a visible dashboard. You have an assistant, as you rightly said. So it is actually an assistant now whom you are sort of like saying that, hey, when inventory goes to 5, make sure that these 3 things happen, right? And you can go back to that assistant and you can watch the dashboard and you can see that, hey, oh, wow, the last 5 days, this many stocks, this is what happened. Or when we did a promotion around flat 50% off, I saw a spike in my conversions, right? So I can take a better decision next time, that when I ran an offer on Friday versus Monday, my Friday did better. Okay, so I need to do more on Friday. So this assistance also, in a way, you can think of this assistant as connecting your business to your design, to your channel, right?
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. This is interesting. So it's like you're the middle layer that manages everything, right? And tomorrow, what if I have to run quick promos? Will the dashboards remind me that, look, yes, you have to run promotions. This is an holiday season coming up. You got to do promotions. Is that intelligent that way? Or
Yeah,
should
it is.
I actually give it some directive to tell me or reminders or something of that sort?
We definitely want to move in that direction, where as we are helping more and more teams, we are also understanding that what sort of, for example, if you're fashion versus you're in beauty, there are nuances to the kinds of offers and sales that you should run, right? Beauty bundles work really well, because people buy in regimes, or for grooming, like you buy a shaving kit. You don't necessarily buy just one thing, right? Whereas when it comes to fashion, it's more about, your looks. Can I complete like my khaki trousers with some t-shirts? So there are very nuances to like what sort of, promos you should run, what sort of bundling strategies you should run, and when, right? So when, for example, during Black Friday, what sort of promotions really work well, like flat sort of promotions really work, flat 50%, up to 70% work really well. Whereas let's say you have like a, festive season, like a Lunar New Year is happening in China right now and globally, and that's when you see like a lot more gifting sort of offers work well, right? So it as we understand more and as we learn more, we are definitely codifying, simplifying these learnings as playbooks, and over time our goal is definitely that based on all these different kinds of store that you are, we will be able to recommend like, here, these are 10 things that you got to do to actually be successful.
How does it work? I mean, single founders can actually do this alone. Say a couple of founders can do this by themselves, right? That's what you're saying. All this can be done by themselves.
Yeah, so if you look at a younger store, it's usually, so if we step back in this, what is this store optimized, like store management, who does that, right? It's that role is called an e-commerce manager, e-commerce store manager today. And the I think analogy in the offline world is your store manager. You had a store manager whose charter was key, my store is performing well or not. When footfalls come in, that guy's job is not to get the footfall, but the minute a person enters a store, he has to make sure that the person goes out with a package, right? So this is very similar. This is the e-commerce store manager. And yes, in a younger team, that's usually the founder or the founders or the founding team who don that role. As teams start growing, you start seeing essentially the head of marketing, sometimes the head of revenue sort of don that hat, right? And as you grow even larger, like back in Myntra, we actually had specific revenue teams whose job was to work on in fact different parts of the funnel, homepage another guy, list page another guy, and so on. So but the overall the charter is, how do I optimize conversions in my store? And that's like the e-commerce manager. The person who does it could be different, but that's true.
Got it. I mean I also want to understand that having worked in e-commerce in India and understanding, did that, like you just mentioned, right, that must have told you that we can simplify this for all the brands that are going to be participating in e-commerce, right? Was that the genesis of the idea at that time? Working in Myntra and observing how e-commerce works in India, you realize so many people were doing multiple things. And in fact, there's so many brands in e-commerce today, right? They can all be your clients. Was that how the idea began actually?
So me and my co-founder eventually ended up building that entire engine for Myntra. So we were the guys who built it, and so of course it was very clear that that is, and we could build it because I mean we were part of. I can't take credit for it. We were part of a team that built it, and there were many moving parts to it. It was the storefront team itself was several hundred folks, and to be honest, the team that we set up for content operations, that was my charter, was honestly about 60 to 70 people from day one, right? And growing. And you just realize at some point in time that without having automations, without having systems in the middle, essentially, it's just not possible to operate large scale teams and be successful. So if you look at large companies globally, and of course Myntra was the starting point, but we have met so many great leaders globally, from the head of marketing and branding at DoorDash to the teams at Zalora and so on. What you realize is that everybody, large teams are custom forging this system today. They are creating those systems in the middle, but they are just 1% of the world. And that's where I think our conversation around creator economy comes again back into it.
I agree with you. There's a question. Let's take an audience question and then move on to the larger ones later. I have some more thoughts. This is Rohit, who says, are the current no code, low code tools good enough to sustain without the code infrastructure being implemented?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question, Rohit, right? And
yes, Rohit.
Rohit, like, I think being proponents of no code doesn't mean that you are against code, right? And what no code actually powers people to do, and in Mason's case, for example, there are many brilliant no code solutions out there for different problems. And what Mason, for example, as a no code solution does is that it helps you with no code playbooks, right? So it actually helps you with understanding what are the e-commerce strategies I need to run. As a small business, you don't know, acha, I can also do BOGO, I can also do buy one, get one. Awesome, right? So you learn, there's so many different things that you have to learn apart from just running your store every day. So what we do is we have all these, ways of all these, no code playbooks that helps you understand that, oh, I can run so many different, e-commerce strategies to be successful. But that's the starting point. There's no code integration to Shopify. So it's one click install. There's no code integration to your channels. So like Instagram, Facebook, whatever, wherever else you shop or other sell. So that's definitely the goal is that how do you help that team to get started? Like that's the goal of no code, right?
Okay.
The beauty is that with no code, Rohit, they can get started, right? But as teams grow, right, what we have realized also is that you don't want to rip and replace, right? That's like nobody wants to rip off. I have grown from 2 to 20 using this solution. Are you telling me I have to buy a new solution today, right? So because I'm 20 and I want to go to 200, I don't want to replace my entire solution, but people have to do that today. That's where my co-founder skills come into the picture. I'm the no-code guy, but he's the platforms guy. So what we are building, how we are building Mason, for example, is that it's completely API backboned. So as you grow as a team, and as teams who use Mason grow, they will be able to migrate to whatever other custom forge systems that they're starting to put in place, and continue to use this as their like business intelligence layer, right? And if you start noticing, other teams, no-code teams are also starting to do that. Notion has, is releasing APIs. So, for example, if you started using Notion, but you are on another product, right, and now you want to import your previous all documentation into Notion, it was not possible before. With this API integration, you will be able to do that, right? So, what you are starting to see is that no-code is to get you started to go live fast, but powered with headless, which is APIs, to help you scale, right? And that's where I see a bunch of these directionally, bunch of the no-code solutions moving, where you have no-code to get started, but you have APIs to scale.
Okay. What about the product managers in the company? What becomes their role? Or say, I've got a product manager and a marketer. Do I add more to the team? Or should I, what should I do? Or should I just have that as a function, only 2 or 3 people in the team and not more than that, and use obviously no code solutions to grow my business? What happens to these roles of product manager and marketer in this case? It's very interesting, right? The founder, I can figure this out. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people want to know if they have to build a product team at all.
I think what happens is that your go-to-market becomes super fast. But the other thing that is not often spoken about is that your subject matter expert is building the solution, right? And that is the beauty, right? If your product manager is the subject matter expert, absolutely, he can build a solution. But if your sales guy is the subject matter expert, or your customer support person is the subject matter expert, he or she can build the solution using no-code technologies today, right? So the gap between, the subject matter expert, then Chinese whisper going into product, Chinese whisper going into engineering documents, Chinese whisper going into implementation and then testing and all of that, that gets out of the way, right? Because what you can do is the subject matter expert can himself influence. He becomes the product. You don't need a separate, like a person in the middle to create. However, to translate the requirements as that's what the traditional role of a product manager was. But the product manager's role also is evolving, right? Because the product manager's only job is not to just translate requirements. Their job is to ensure that the product is, growing, it's converting good, it's loved, it's getting launched, you're communicating the product philosophy right, you're communicating the messages, all of that, your help documents are getting made, your enhancements are coming out, what else can you do to actually technologically advance the product. So there are a lot more things that can be done as your product starts working out. What no code helps is that the subject matter expert can quickly create the product, test whether the solution is working or not, right? Whether it's a valuable solution, to invest more time in building, right? And then you can, of course, set up product and engineering teams to continue scaling it.
Right. And do you think, at some point of time when this becomes an assistant, the roadmap is, it becomes an assistant. Little bit of sci-fi here. How powerful can this ecosystem become? Where is it heading? When I have a dashboard as a CEO or a founder, it becomes more powerful, because apart from managing my teams and managers, the software itself is giving me a third-party perspective of sorts, right? Is it going to happen at all?
Yeah, I think I'll decouple the question into two parts.
Yes,
and one is just for Mason, would it help the founder and the CEOs to actually, absolutely, right? That it's the power, more than founder and CEO, it gives the power back to as I said, the subject matter expert. So as a brand creator, right, your core competency is that you know the lovely products, where to buy them, how to package them, how to what products to sell at all, right? What are the functions of that product? What is the material you should use for the dress? What is the ingredients you should use for that whole granola that you're making? So that's your expertise, right? Today, unfortunately, that person has to also understand what's a webhook, what's an API, and actually, right? But
very complex.
What something like Mason or any no-code solution is providing is that you're giving the power back to the person to focus on what is right for them, right? Rather than having to really learn what is a webhook or what's a cache and all of that stuff, right? They don't have to, and they can run the strategies and experiments that they want to. For example, they might say that I want to create product guides because my product needs guides, right? So can I use no-code technologies to really power quick guides and display it to the right people at the right time, right? I want to show product guides only to new customers, first-time users. I don't want to show product guides to my engaged user. You can take the decision and deploy it, right? That's what helps, no-code helps you do, right? But overall, that is what I think no-code technologies are bringing. It gives the power to the business creator, to the brand creator, to actually focus on what's going to help them become a better brand, right? Now, overall, what the question that you're asking is how is no-code going to evolve? I think that everything that you see today will eventually become accessible, right? And it has to. One day, me and my co-founder were speaking about it, how the pen is the OG no-code tool, because before that you had to have that big, stone, and you needed a hammer and a chisel. Absolutely. And you needed tablets, right?
Think about the Egyptian culture.
Imagine
Romans,
that.
clay tablets. Yeah, you're right.
If you were not a good tools man, you were not a sculptor. Yeah. You couldn't create, right? So the pen is the OG no-code tool, because it helped you with dipping it in in a little bit of ink, you can write yourself. You don't need like that muscles of someone to actually, do that, right? So that, and after that, what happened? Literacy exploded. People are able to write books. Now creator economy is exploded because of it, a lot because of that, right? I think similar you would see in software. That's what no code is powering. It's essentially helping anybody create software, right? Solutions.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Is there a chance for you to create a community? You see GitHub as a community. You see now Postman as a community. Do you see Mason becoming a community? How important is community to you? Because I see a lot of people who would want to come into Mason and test stuff out, test your tools out, especially brands, right? Because there's no retail or e-commerce focused community out there yet. Is there a chance for you to make one, or is there one already?
So I think the e-commerce world people are very, very community focused already. And what you see is that people are in different pockets in different places, like on Facebook or on Instagram or on Reddit. Shopify has a lot of events which are community focused, etc. But the goal there is that how do you help each other essentially with strategies that helps you grow as a business, right? We are already seeing at Mason, we've got a lot of love from the community, to be honest, right? Because the maker community on one side, within the creator brand economy themselves, there is a bunch of tinkerers always, right? People who want to do something on their own. Correct. And we are seeing a lot of love from the maker community. We were on Product Hunt. We, were #1 of the day, #2 of the week. In fact, just last week, we won the Golden Kitty Award for 2021 for e-commerce. We, won on Shopify. We won the 2020 Commerce Awards. Shopify actually gave us the award, saying that one of the best apps emerging out of the ecosystem. We've got a lot of great reviews from customers who say that, hey, like, I love it. It's so simple. It's making something very complicated easy for me. We have had inbound from folks coming in and saying that, hey, we heard these people talk about it. We also want to give it a shot. So what we are seeing is that as we are growing and we are understanding the space better, we are able to power more people. We are definitely getting a lot of love from the community, and hoping that over time it actually solidifies into a much more structured community. But right now, definitely early days.
I'll be keenly following you, because as my career as a founder grows, I'd have to build tools. I have not heard of media no-code, low-code tools, right? I want to look at that too. And perhaps use Mason for my store integration. Can I have brands, pay for my solutions just, through my storefront? Yeah. So, but Abhilash has a question. Let's move. There's some more questions. Let's go take them. Abhilash says, a question that arises is on the integration capabilities of the platform. And being an openly customizable platform, how would one ensure security with no code application?
Yeah, and security is like, bare minimum nowadays, right? Like you can't do anything without being secure. And in the end, it's like you have to bake it in from day one. That's not like an afterthought, right? Now, integrations is definitely a very important part. If the question is around what we do at Mason or versus no code in general, is that integrations is a core important part of enabling people with no code platforms, right? Because you don't want them to use an API to actually integrate anything in, right? Correct. You want it to be one click. You want it to be simple to use. You want them to be able to go live and find value ASAP, right? So out of the box integrations are a very important part of any no code platform. If you see Zapier, if you see Airtable, whatever no code teams that are out there, you'll see that one of the most important things that they do from day one is enable a lot of integrations, right? So we're no different there. We're ensuring that all the integrations are available. Of course, that makes being secure very important. Specifically if you are in something which is retail, because there is business data and personal data of buyers that is coming into the picture. Most of these e-commerce platforms do not even allow you to be available as an integration if you don't adhere to these guidelines. Like Shopify will literally kick you out and not power you to be integrated into Shopify ecosystem if you don't meet the highest standards of security, right? So a lot of security is, of course, on the platform who's building those integrations. But if you notice, the platforms on which you are integrating also are very, very secure, and they are powering millions and millions of customers and billions of transactions every day. And they just don't allow teams to just randomly go and integrate along with them. So there is both of that, right, coming into the picture.
Okay, great answer. Next question is from Chandesh. Okay, and he says, with no code solutions, what is Mason doing to reduce the risk of technical debt of its clients? I didn't understand that, so you have to tell me. What does the technical debt of its clients mean? In this aspect, that no code has a lot of practices that are followed to ensure, he basically means, is there integrity, security, robustness? Is it in the space? And
Sure.
is it possible to avoid flaws in the application and all that?
Sure.
I hope you got that question.
Yeah, I got that, right. So again, I mean, I can talk about no code in general, a little irrelevant when it comes to Mason. I'll give you the reason why. Because here it's all about enabling e-commerce strategies in a no code way. It's not about, right now we are not at the stage of our maturity as a platform where we are enabling them, e-commerce brands, to create their own apps on top of it. We are moving into that direction this year, but right now it's all about providing out of the box solutions. So it is out of the box playbooks, out of the box integrations that I was talking about, etc., right? And as we are moving to more design your own end-to-end solution too, of course keeping it as simple as anchored on the vertical, which is e-commerce, right? So e-commerce is our vertical. We are very specific about that, so which means that the way that you create the solution is also anchored around e-commerce constructs of stocks and inventory and price and things like that, right? And not necessarily database and whatever else. Like it's not a generic thing. It's very specific to e-commerce, right? Now over there, yes, I mean, we have technical debt at Myntra at, I don't know, 100 million GMV. We had technical debt.
What is it actually? Tell us, for those of us who are non-technical, what is
technical debt? Is essentially, sometimes to go live, what you do is you actually take decisions to build something in a slightly non-scalable way, so that you can go live fast, right? And over time, you sort of pull in more resources to now say that, hey, some of these codes that we wrote were not elegant, and now we need to actually modularize it better, make it more elegant, and so on and so forth. Or maybe they were built on older technologies, now we want to upgrade it to new technology, right? So there's always technical debt, right? The whole idea about no code is that it's not like there's no code, right? So it's not necessarily technical debt. It's more, can I enhance my workflows, right? So it's more about powering customers or people who are using no-code technologies, that can you keep enhancing your workflows using this system, right? So for them, I would say the analogy of technical debt is that, is it easy for me to modify things? Is it easy for me to upgrade? Is it easy for me to change my workflows at the drop of a hat, right? Today, if I'm saying, when a product is a new product, market as new arrival, tomorrow, can I quickly change it to market as new, right? Is it possible? That is what no code actually powers, because you literally, your turnaround time is instant, right? You don't have to really do any coding to change anything over there. So the analogy of technical debt over here is that, can I change my workflows fast, or am I stuck with it? You are not stuck with it, because you can actually change it at the drop of a hat, right?
Okay.
But as a platform, of course, adding on to him, as a platform, we need to make sure that we are scalable, our technical debt is taken care of. That's a part of any company building process. So
okay, this is Dhanush, who says, okay, you also worked at Myntra. Do you see all these large companies also move towards no code as the next generation, right? And do you see, on the same lines, he says, how easy have you found it for people to adapt no code solutions or integrate?
Yeah,
he's perhaps mentioning about the larger companies. Go on.
Dhanush, is it?
Yes, it is Dhanush.
Dhanush. So Dhanush, interestingly, there's this article from Forbes, and I think you'll be able to find it online. Is that how no code was first adopted by enterprises rather than individuals, right? And what it made, because what it helped enterprises do and people within enterprises do, is that bring the solution closer to the subject matter experts, tying back to what we were speaking about a few minutes back. The beauty of no code is that it helps people who have the problem build a solution, right? And today it's harder as more and more no code solutions are coming in. It's becoming easier for the person who's facing the problem to create the solution, right? That's what no code does. So in the early days of this whole revolution, that of course the most pertinent problems are faced in larger organizations. People, marketers,
they have to reinvent themselves
all the time, and then you have a huge backlog where teams are complaining that our product and engineering team are always pushing us into sprint cycles, and we are not able to get our features live. Like, forget Myntra, even at IBM we had complaints from different teams coming back and saying, hey, we requested for these 50 new features, and when are they even going out? And that's just one team, and you have like thousands of new feature requests, and as an engineering team you have to take a decision to prioritize, right? So they are always going into sprint, and that's why it was adopted massively by larger teams globally, FedExes and DHLs of the world, and then Nordstrom, etc., because they felt that, hey, it's so much easier if now these guys can adopt, like, create the solutions for themselves. If the solution works, then it can go back into the roadmap and be built as a more robust solution to scale. But definitely they don't have to wait for 2 years to get their request prioritized, right? So that was actually interesting. It was actually started a lot more, adoption started a lot more in larger enterprises.
Okay, next question from Dhananjay. He says, okay, what are the practices? Do you have a playbook where Mason helps people understand these solutions? Is there custom integration? Do you put them into practice better? I mean, people sometimes get confused, right? So how do you use this? They may not be technologically very savvy. How do you help them put them into practice when they open their e-commerce storefront?
Yeah, I mean, forget Mason, any product, right? And I've been building product for about 16 odd years now, and it's a standard product management practice. Is that how do you make it easy for the user, right? How do you put the user at the center of all your optimizations, right? One part of it is building and launching, and then as you launch the product, how do you continue to scale and refine the product to make it easier and more helpful for the user to find value, right? So it's standard product management practice. It's a continuous process. It's not a one-time process. You have to constantly, as you add new features, as you add new solutions, as you add more integrations, customizations, whatever you do into any product, you have to ensure that can be communicated to the customer easily. The customer finds the onboarding on that easy. The customer finds also understand how that is impacting their day-to-day workflows, and so on and so forth. So that's it's very important. Usually I see most young product managers, the mistake that you do is that you think that, hey, I have a feature and I've got it live and I'm done, right? But adoption of the feature is the first metric that essentially will give you an perspective on how well are people adopting it, how much people are getting activated on that feature, and post activation, how are they retaining, engaging, and so on, and metrics, right? So yeah, that's the cycle. And whatever product you build, whatever product you launch, you have to always ensure that your eyes are always on the metrics and your ears are always with the customers listening in.
I'm interested in this one thing, right? What's important for me is conversational AI adds messaging in terms of intelligent SMSs coming by. How does a brand manage all that? Would you also allow for these kind of applications like a Gupshup of the world or a Yellow.ai to integrate with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we are e-commerce first, so we already have out-of-the-box integrations for e-commerce and Shopify first sort of solutions. Like Gorgias is one. That's a chatbot solution specific to e-commerce. E-commerce has if you step back, it has very specific nuances, which are a generic chatbot cannot. For example, your typical top question in an e-commerce will be, where is my order? How do I return it? How do I exchange it? What are the shipping costs, right? Like your standard, right? So you have, chatbots that are pre-built by, let's say, the Gorgias team, which are around these problems, right? So yes, as I said, we are integrated to a bunch of these different solutions. There, how Mason can help is that, when when a customer who has probably already engaged with a product and has not bought it, right, has actually browsed it several times and has probably put it on a wish list, is that when they're pinging customer support and they're chatting and they're asking about something, at that point in time, the customer support agent can actually automatically showcase that, hey, the product that you were looking at, there's a price drop. So it was $100, now it's $95, right? Do you want to buy it right now, right? So that is how, something like a Mason can add value into a customer support flow, for example.
I want to talk about your co-founders, right? I think that's something that I missed. I'm sorry about this, right? How important is it to have great co-founders? By the way, Shrikar, Madhu, I'll ask you a question. Let me finish mine. A lot of people messaging me. Talk about co-founders and why they're important to build a startup like this.
Yeah, so I have one co-founder and two early members of the founding team. My co-founder has had a bunch of experience building platforms. His last startup was acquired by Myntra. That's where we met, and we ended up working together on this, continuing to work together on this problem. And the two early members of our founding team are two great engineers that we used to work very closely together. Four of us sort of like, when at least I jumped out and said, let's do it. And then my co-founder joined me, and then the both of them joined in, right? You can't underscore that enough. Being a founder is hard. Starting anything from scratch is hard, and it's just emotionally, I think it's so much better to have a team, a unit that you can, who are sort of suffering the same as you are, and it's not possible to have that same communication at home. For example, your parents or your partner or your kids, etc., cannot understand what you are literally going through. The context is so different, and it definitely helps to have a co-founder or founding team members who have been with you along the way as you have iterated and have grown, and who understand the context of what you are facing and what you are going through, right? So that's from the perspective of how do you really sustain as an individual and continue to work on the same problem. But the more important thing is that it rounds up the skill sets, right? Nobody, I think the world of the single person being a superhero is gone. Even in superhero movies now, you see Avengers or whoever, it's all the gang of them solving the problem. It's not true or real today that one person needs to prove that that person can do everything and can manage everything. It's not possible. It's in fact much more mature if you are already able to understand where your skill sets boundaries are and what are the skill sets that would add great value to you, as you build and scale a company, right? And
it's to these complementary. While should they have complementary skills, or would you say have different skills? Founders with different skills, that's better. What would you advise?
I think definitely different. Complementary, different, same, right? Like something that you bring to the table and the other person brings something else definitely rounds it off. It definitely helps. If you are both solving the same problem, you have to be matured enough to also understand where the boundaries are on what are the things that you take care of, what are the things that the other person takes care of. It's a very, very long ride and it's a hard ride. So your nerves are raw. So there is always possibility of a lot of friction if both people are you don't know who's going to take the decision for certain aspects, right? And so and also 1 + 1 = 5 when it comes to having two people work on a problem, right? So having complementary different skills really, really help because it just powers you to look at the same problem from very diverse angles.
That is so true and well said. And in terms of Mason by itself, talk about your fundraise. Have you done any? Are you bootstrapped? I think there's a lot of interest in your particular field. And how has it been in terms of talking to VCs about this? I'm sure the VCs talk the no code language all the time. I meet so many of them. What is their perception of India as a market? Because you're based abroad, but you also deliver in India. Your thought processes around raising money. What type of money do you want to raise? Strategic? Do you think a brand should deploy money onto you, or is it going to be a bunch of VCs, or do you think this can bootstrap by itself and generate cash for itself?
Yeah. We are not bootstrapped. We
Okay.
are VC funded. We are funded by Excel and Lightspeed.
Yes.
I think it really depends. The decision to bootstrap versus not really depends on what is the problem that you're solving. For us, what we are doing is that we are taking the brunt of being the technology leaders so that D2C teams and individual creators do not have to understand or hire technology, right? So we are amortizing technology, great technology for the world, right? For the 99% of the world, right? Of the brand retail space. And that basically means that we need to hire the best. We are already a great team of technologists, product managers, product builders, and makers. And we, of course, are constantly investing a lot back into that, right? Because our job is to amortize the technology, make it more accessible for everybody else, which means we have to take the brunt, right?
How is it like winning Accel and Lightspeed? I mean, I think those are two marquee investors, and that speaks volumes, right? And they always say having a great investor on your cap table makes sense for the larger rounds. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I mean, we met through common connects, and and then things moved. We engaged with them over time, and we found that two very complementary skills there also. What Excel brought was a lot of SaaS and product understanding depth,
Absolutely.
platform depth. And on the other hand, what Lightspeed brought is this whole product marketing communication depth, right? And a very, go-getter sort of a mindset, right? So for us, that has definitely helped. It brings two very different kinds of perspectives and as a company. And now we are, of course, over this year and next, as we grow and we onboard more partners, more VCs, advisors, partners into our board. What we want to continue focusing on is how do we bring more diverse perspectives again, right? And how do we better experience guys? How do we bring in more sales sort of perspective? How do we bring marketing? How do we bring content? So all these different skill sets, because those are all required today to be successful.
Absolutely, and for a brand owner, he or she pays on a monthly basis on a SaaS model, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the tool,
yes.
per user kind of basis.
Yeah, it's SaaS. Yeah, it's a regular usage-based subscription model.
Okay, are there different pricings for different people, like the long tail, the corporate? Some people have a corporate pricing, some people have the long tail pricing.
Yeah.
What would you want to focus on? Do you offer both?
So ours are very transparent, usage based. Again, it doesn't matter what size of the team you are. It depends on how much you use. So if you see, SaaS is also moving to a lot more of usage based sort of model where it's very transparent. You onboard at a certain tier because that's the amount you want to use, and then as you grow across, as you use more, as you scale more, you pay more, right? So it's a very standard. Shopify actually follows that same model. You see Airtable or whoever else, all these teams are actually moving to are all usage first. So we've definitely strong believers that be transparent from day one. There's nothing to hide. You pay what you use.
Okay, there's a couple of more audience questions. There's a question from Akansha. She's asking about the CAC. How, as a business that offers no code solutions, do you consider yourself a SaaS business? If in that case, is the CAC built in for an 8-month marketing spend and everything after that is profitability? Or how does it work in your case? And how much, and she being a startup, how much should she focus on as a marketing spend in the initial first year of the business?
Okay. I think, Akansha, again, the answer would again be, what is it that you should focus on at that stage of your journey as a business, right? For example, in the early days of Oyo, they were all focused about, how do we acquire more, right?
Correct.
And then moved on to how do we retain and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And at different points, you'll take different decisions, right? Sometimes you are all about growth, and then you will suddenly say, no, I have grown a lot, but now I want to ensure that my retention is really stable, that expansion is stable, and so on and so forth. In the early days, though, unanimously, it should be all about growth. It should be, the reason it should be about growth is because you gotta have enough people using whatever you're building for you to understand whether it's adding value to them or not. You can't have a singular data point of like 2 customers or 3 customers telling you I love it, and you're biasing all your judgment on future roadmaps and vision on that, right? So growth becomes very important in the early days, because what you're doing is you're getting to enough, statistically significant volume of people where you can start taking decisions based on what they're telling you, right?
Yeah, well said.
Right. So I would always suggest that initially get to that. I have
Okay.
done that mistake.
You're saying grow first at any cost, spend some money. It's okay.
Absolutely. And honestly speaking, I've made that mistake. This is the second time founder talking, right? This is not a first time founder talking, right? I've done that mistake where you are, no, I'll worry about retention. I'll do this, I'll do that. And honestly speaking, if you're not statistically significant, how will you even take the right decisions, right? You are going a lot more on gut. And my advice would be grow. It doesn't matter, grow. And then when you will understand when you have enough. It really depends on the market and the industry you are solving a problem for. If you are solving problem for large enterprises, you have like 200 of them in the world. So your statistical significance is maybe 2, right? Or 5. But if you are solving for SMB, maybe it's a few thousands, right? So get there, understand whether you're solving a problem, what else you can do better, and then focus on maybe retention, whatever else, conversion, whatever else is the next in your pipeline.
Okay. My last question, since Pebbles also focused on university students, you had more than 10 years of experience before you started up. A lot of people are starting up from college, and they're also getting funded at college.
Yes.
Do you think, I mean, what's the right balance? I mean, how should one go ahead with it? When do you know, are you too young to start up? I don't think so. But what are the opportunities now in this decade? Do you think starting up in college is an option at all? Or would you say go work outside, come back, because then you can really build a proper company? Because you worked in B2B. You had to have that experience to start up later. B2C, I understand, perhaps you could go off the shelf to college, you could start perhaps, but what do you advise for university students?
I think you already answered it really well. I think it really depends on what problem you want to solve. And if you don't feel the problem really deeply, then you can't solve it, right? Like you have to live and breathe the problem. And if you are solving problems for certain specific industries, etc., at that point in time, experience adds a lot of value because you've been through it. You have built maybe tons of things before. You have already managed people, you have had teams. So you're ready for a lot of things, right? On the other hand, if the problem that you're solving is, for example, we went to IIT Bombay to hire, and everybody was saying, I want to solve the problem of food because in their mess, their food was so bad, and they're like, we want. I get it. I empathize because that's the biggest problem for you, right? And so if you have that sort of a deep problem inside, and you want to iterate over it, right? The only advice that it doesn't matter what you do. Ultimately, the advice, adding on to what Vishal is saying, is that there's no right time to start. The right time is always today, right? But the most important thing is, are you committed enough to iterate and get better at things and grow, right? There's a lot of hustle is great, but there's a lot of hard work, and you have to constantly refine your perspective and keep growing, right? If you're ready to commit to that, I think you should start anytime.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kausambi Manjita of Mason. Thank you so much for being on Pebble, and thank you for answering all those questions from these lovely students who've been writing to us. We'll have it again on a platform. If you want something deeper about the low code, no code revolution, we'll perhaps do a panel. We'll ask Kaus to come and share it too. Write into us. Thank you so much, Kaus.
Thank you so much for having me. Had a wonderful time. Great questions, everyone.